Ooh. Hi, and welcome to this session around managing workspaces in Fabric and Power BI. Are you all doing great? Yeah, perfect. First, my name is Josh Blindbeck. I'm a principal architect at a company called 2-Day Capacity, based in Denmark. And then I'm also a Microsoft Data Platform MVP, and then I'm a pretty big fan of sharing knowledge. So I'm running the Microsoft BI community in Denmark and also the Power BI user group. And then I'm also organizing a couple of different conferences. And you are all now here invited to join one of them. You can look them up on the website. So Power BI Next Step, Data Platform Next Step, and then Power BI Cruise. 2 of them in June, and 1 of them is in September. So, yeah. First thing first. This is a 20-minute session, and I could probably talk for a full day on a topic like this. We can have a workshop on this because it's not something that you can do easily. So we need to set some things at the first, and then we'll try and figure out what is the most important stuff. And I have tried figuring out that. So, Workspace, this serves as this dedicated area within the Fabric portal for safeguarding and management content. And I hope you all agree on that. So, with that, then we also use the workspaces, and this is really important. It's called a workspace. And that is because it is somewhere we are collaborating and working together on content. So the purpose of a workspace is not for sharing to end users. For that, we have the apps you can put on top of the workspace, but workspaces is for collaborating on the content we have, both the Power BI content and of course also all the new Fabric content we can have in them. And that's why it's really, really important to plan that and also have that in mind. And then we are, of course, and that's what I will try to cover here, setting up some effective governance and organization of these workspaces, because that is really, really important to have that in place. Hopefully before you start using Power BI or Fabric, but you can of course also do it afterwards. That's most often what is really happening. But if you are starting up new in Fabric or Power BI, then you can start up doing it right from the start. So for this session, we will go in and have these 2 characters in place. So for one of them, that is the one where we have the control, easy, slowly, going down to the ground. Then we have the other one, that is the fast and agile way of doing things, really fast. And then hopefully somewhere in the end, we can also pull the parachute. But sometimes we don't, and then it's not happening so good. So this is the 2 things we will have into this session today. So yeah, we have the agile way of doing it and the control way of doing it. And I can honestly say I'm more into the controlled way of doing it, but yeah, you can of course choose your own. I will try and come back to these 2 concepts around in this session. So, what we will go through in the next 18 minutes, I think, is these 4 topics. So we will look into how we can monitor workspaces, and that's very important when you start up and haven't done any of this before. And then we will go in and look at some of the different audiences we can put on a workspace, so classifying workspaces in some buckets. And then also the naming conventions on the workspace is also a very important topic, and I will come and give you some of my examples of doing it. And then in the end, we will look at how we can then create workspaces, because that we can also do in the agile way or the more controlled way. So, for monitoring workspaces in Fabric and Power BI, we have some different options. The first one, that is the more advanced one, that is actually going in and extracting the full tenant catalog of all the different workspaces that you have in your tenant. This is not an option Microsoft supports for us very easily, so we have to do it ourselves going out, and there are different options for doing it. But with this in place, if we do this, then we can answer these questions we have here up, so we can actually review all the workspaces that exist, both now and that's also created later on, and then we can also audit and see who has access to different workspaces, also a very, very important part of governance in workspaces. And then the last one is also having some kind of auditing, so we can see when this workspace is created and who has changed it, or has there been some access. So this is something that we can go in and set up, but there are different solutions for that, and I can show you one of them. And funny enough, it's one that I already created myself. So I have a GitHub here. So here you'll find a GitHub. And my approach is using Azure Data Factory pipelines or Synapse pipelines. I have created some templates you can download and use and set it up running so you can extract all these data that is something you need for doing the monitoring of your workspaces. Unfortunately, I would have loved to put these pipelines also to be used in Fabric pipelines, but until now, there's no way of using templates in Fabric pipelines. So yeah, you can only do it in Azure DevOps, Azure Data Factory, or Synapse Data Factory. Or you can try and copy-paste the code, but there's no easy solution for running these pipelines in Fabric just yet. There are also different other solutions out here that I will call out in down here. So we have Rui Romano, actually a speaker on the conference here, has created a solution very, very similar to this one, just running in PowerShell instead of running in pipelines. So please have a look at that. And then there are also some other solutions you can actually pay. So Power BI Central, that is a sponsor also of this conference, they also have a solution where you pay per month, but have all this information collected for you. And then we also has a solution called Argus Power BI that will do something similar to Power BI Central. So there are many different options for monitoring your workspaces. But the important part is that you do it in one of the ways. And then there's actually and one option that is built in from Microsoft. So we have this admin monitoring workspace. How many of you know of this feature in Power BI Fabric? Yeah, some of you. But this is the built-in, very, very simple solution from Microsoft, and it can't answer all the questions that we have over here. But it is a starting point if you're not able to use one of these more advanced features. So let me also show that for you. It's something that you will need to be a Power BI admin on your tenant. And if you are a Power BI admin, going under Workspaces, then you have in the top this admin monitoring workspace that's always in the top. And the final thing with this is that you need to be the admin of the portal to have it show here. But after that, you can actually share it with more broad use, so people that's not an admin. But you need to find an admin to have access to this workspace. And in this workspace, we have a couple of different reports. And one of them is this Purview Hub. It's kind of fun. Microsoft is calling it Purview Hub, but it has nothing to do with Purview. But it's just because you can find some of the same information in Purview also. So I'm not on the internet here, so that will actually make it a little difficult to show you this. So bear in mind, I will need to connect to the internet. Time is running. Hopefully it will remember my code from earlier today. Something happening? Perfect, thank you. Oh. Yes, in here we have one page in this report. It's called Inventory, and here you can find the whole list of workspaces, but there's not that many information in it. Actually, this admin monitoring workspace has been something Microsoft has worked on for the last, I think, 3 or 4 years. I got a private preview in it for long ago, and it hasn't evolved that much. But let's hope that there will be much more information in it. I have seen something is new coming. There will be a third report in there. So Microsoft is actually working on it. So in time, hopefully, we will get more information and also get all the information we need to actually monitor our workspaces. Yeah. And the last thing around monitoring is that when you monitor this, then you also have the option to document it. And that's especially important if you come in afterwards and go in and actually is putting some labels on the different workspaces, using this description field on the workspaces, filling in who is the owner of it, what is the purpose of the workspace. But that's a manual process you need to do. But that's also very important in monitoring, actually putting in this documentation. So that was monitoring workspaces. Then audiences. Then when I look at workspaces, I typically put them in 3 different categories. We have the enterprise workspaces. That's the one that is for the whole company. That is the one that is controlled by IT or the Center of Excellence, and that's where we broadly distribute content for the whole company. Then we have this I will call team-based. That is for smaller usage, team-based self-service usage. And then for the last one, we have this private workspace or personal workspaces that is also something you can do in. So the first 2 is a normal workspace, just 2 different definitions of it. And the last one is that you know of, that is called the personal workspace. But with the personal workspace, we have some limitations. And one of them is if you wanted to do the Git integration that we have come now with Fabric, we can't use that. So there you actually need to actually create a proper workspace that I will then call a private workspace. So that's the 3 different categories of workspaces I typically put in. But that could be more. But that is what I tend to categorize my workspaces in. Then naming conventions, also out of these 3 different options, we can have some, it's very, use some descriptive name when you create the workspaces, and then also use prefixes, but also now consider using domains instead of prefixing or with prefixing. So you can actually do the same instead of prefixing every of the financial workspaces with Fin and Sale and so on for different departments or business units. You could also consider just putting in a domain on it and then don't do prefixes, but you have both options. So try and see and if domains can actually do some of these things, but because it's around team, department, organization, business unit, segment, or some other grouping of your workspaces. And then you can actually, that's my recommendation, put in the project as part of the main name. What is this? What is the purpose of this workspace? So is it something around self-service? Is it a specific project you are running? Then put that as part of the name in it. And then also in the end of the name, you can, if you're having different environments, you can put in dev, test, prod. You have 3 different of each workspace if you have that need. Or you can put in something around if it is it code in here or is it data in here. So for that, I have an example here, but there can be many different standards for putting in and creating workspace naming. But the important part is that you consider it and actually take action on it, and also document the standard you have been choosing, so that it will be easier to actually see out of the name what's in this workspace. That is the purpose of this. And also the ordering, when you see all the workspaces in the left menu, that can also help with these different prefixes if you are using them. Then the last part, how should we create workspaces in this Fabric? And we have these 2 different options. We have the option to say every user or almost every user in the organization can just go in and create them, or we can limit them. But if we limit them, then we should need to set up another process for how can we then have users request a workspace. So in the Power BI tenant settings, we have these 2 options. Either we can set on, everyone can create them, or we can put that one, and that will be my favorite one, and say, okay, not all can actually create workspaces, but that then requires that we set up some type of process, because people can't just live without workspaces. They need the workspaces still, but how should you actually do that? My approach for this is that you can set up a process for how to request a workspace. And you can do that in different ways in the portal. And you should, of course, find out what is the information you need when people are requesting a workspace. And then you have, in my opinion, 2 different options. You have the simple one, just setting up something that people send a email or service ticket or something and requesting a workspace, and there's somebody in the IT department or Center of Excellence going in, creating the workspaces and giving the right permission and giving that. That's the manual. That will work fine for smaller organizations. But if you are a big organization and you get these requests very often, you might want to automate this, and we can do that. We can create a form or a Power Apps where people can go in and request actually a workspace. And I created one that I will try to show you. So the option here is I will create it in a Microsoft form and then a Power Automate flow that will use the APIs to then automatically create the workspaces, assign the user to the workspaces, and put in the right naming convention as part of creating the workspace. And it's actually not that complicated to set up. So let's go in here again and see. I have created a simple, very, very simple form here. I will call this Aqua Villa as the product name. Then you can put in whatever you need to do for also having the naming of it. You can say here, is it for team or private? I won't put enterprise in here because enterprise is something that people should not request. That is something we create from top-down approach. I say this is a team workspace. It is part of the business units for finance, and I want it now. And then I submit this, and then automatically I have a Power Apps here, and I can, a Power Automate flow that is start running, and you can see here there's an approval. I'm both the one that requesting and also approving. That should not be that way, but that's how I set it up. But just to let you see here how it's actually set up. So it's listening to this specific form, and when it's triggered, it will get the detail of the form and get the user profile so that I get some more information about the user, not just the UPN of the user. So getting what department are they coming from and other stuff, I can easily trigger that. And then I set up an approval flow, and you can, maybe you have a need for approval flow, maybe you trust your users that much that you just create it for them, but it's easy to set up in here. And I can go in now here and see that I got an email or approval here, and then I can say, nah, let me approve it. And now, hopefully, it was approved, and it's waiting, and it's starting, going down here, and then we have a condition because, yeah, it can be approved or not. And if it's not approved, you'll just send an email, no, you're not, you're not putting in enough description, or you haven't filled it out right, or there's already another workspace that actually you can use for this one, or what you can put in here. But this one we approved, so we are calling an API in Power BI. Then we create the workspace. We get the workspace ID to then also assign the user as a member of this workspace. And if we go in here and go in on the workspaces and refresh. Let us see, and I search for Aqua Villa. I think it failed It failed? Perfect. Then we won't see it in here. But yeah, it failed in here creating the workspace. So maybe there was a workspace already with the same name. It's not bulletproof, this one. But it won earlier today, I can promise you. And I can just show you how it will look. And I created one like this earlier today. And what it's actually doing is that in Access here, it creates the requester person as a member, not as an admin, and then it put in an security group as the admin of this, so the admins can go in and administrate this afterwards. But it can also be fit for your purposes. You might add them as admin if you trust your users very much. That could also be that as part of the form they are filling out, they have to specify what AD group that should actually be put in as members in this. So there's a lot of different options of setting this up. And now I'm on time, and that is perfect because now I'm also at my last slide, where I have put in some resources and guidelines. I will post these slides on my GitHub. I have a separate GitHub for slides, but this is where I find a lot of my inspiration for making this session, and where you can find a lot more information created from Microsoft around how you should manage workspaces, both in a workspace level and on a tenant level. So yeah, any questions, please come up afterwards, because we are not having any more time. And then, yeah, please provide feedback. This is the first time I'm doing this session, so please be honest so I can improve for next time. And thank you for coming here.